It's good to see everyone this morning. We're going to go ahead and start. Venerable will be here in just a couple minutes, but we're going to go ahead and start with homage to the three Buddhas.
Namo Di Sanche Doje Champo. 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 Namo Shi Jamo Nipo. 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 Namo Quan Chen Pusa. 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 Namo Quan Chen Pusa.
So thank you for. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. I was at Heartwood today. So I do want to share with you what's going on. I haven't been to Heartwood. Now I'm speaking of the old facility until today. Today is the first time I went back since the day we moved. You have to be able to pick things up and set things down. That's why one can abide in equanimity or be at peace about things. All of us are good, I'm sure, at picking things up, but can we let things go? That determines whether you have happiness or not, or whether your happiness is dependent upon things. So we got a call a few weeks ago. We got a call a few weeks ago from Fiona, and Fiona offered us the second and third floors of Heartwood for free for lifetime. If we wanted it, and the old kitchen as our kitchen. So I went by to look today, to look at the place, and because Pops came to see me yesterday, no Pops, and he was the one who kept the ground. And he woke me up at 9 in the morning, knocking on my door, crying, because he looked at hardwood and it's all unkempt, and and he was so hurt. And so then I said, well, I'm going to go by and take a look. And I drove by, and they had taken up the island in the middle, except where the water fountain is. And the tree that we cut down that grew back is still there. And on one half, they have, and this whole conversation is going somewhere. One half, I mean, this is the real world that we live in, right? Not a fantasy make-believe book, the real world. So one half has been, she bought a food truck or something and has umbrellas set up all on it. And when I drove by yesterday, I actually saw, I think, 6 people sitting out there eating whatever it is she sells. And on the other side, they moved the fence back 6 feet so that they could create diagonal parking. Diagonal parking, and what used to be our Dharma hall, they're converting into a 2-bedroom residence with a deck. And her plan had been, and we had just met with the land planners for how we could convert the space in the back into units to be sold off or whatever, but we would have to go through a whole major thing, which is not what we wanted to do. But she followed up with that plan, and she has plans for 10 condos in the back, and just trying to create a community. So she asked me how she could do it, and I said, well, you can do create a housing community that's a nonprofit that and that would pay off her construction costs for renovating the whole property. And so that's what she's made application for, and I don't know the status of the approval yet. That's another conversation. But anyway, so I walked through the house to see what she'd done. She said, we changed our mind. We don't want to have an inn now. So that's why we want to give you back 2 floors and the Bodhi Hall, and you could just have that for free, which would and she had already offered us the Bodhi Hall, that would save us $2,500 a month here. And then the Bodhi Hall and 2 floors perpetually would also save us, another $4,000 for our nunnery, So it's a $7,000 gift. So then she started, and I said, well, we have other considerations too. This is what I know about people in Hendersonville. If you move even 2 blocks, you lose half the people. And it takes 3 years for them to find their way back. They do not like change. They do not like moving. And I know that because we've moved 3 times in the last 20 years. And when we moved not even 3 blocks away, we lost just about everybody. and we had to start all over again. Then when we moved the next time, same thing, lost everybody, except for maybe 10 people, and had to start all over again. And we moved from there to here, same thing, you know. And so what I have to consider is whether the benefit is worth it or not. So it's not just about having a place. It's just not about having a place that don't have to that we don't have to pay for except our expenses. But here's the thing, so she said, "This is a gift for us, Pannavati. Can't you see? This is a gift." I said, "It may seem that way to you, but this is what I know. I know that all my life I have been generous. I know that all my ministry life, I've cared about others and the needs of others." So I said, whatever comes back to me, that's my karma. That's not you giving me something. It might pass through your hands, but I don't want you to be confused, because you may not understand these kinds of things, but I understand it. So it's not just a matter of you giving us something, because that's our karma. That can't be stopped, whether it's you, whether it's somebody else. I said, we're buying the nunnery right now. We were supposed to settle 2 years ago. We didn't have enough money to settle because we didn't have money out of Heartwood to settle. And so he rented it to us. The rent's coming to its the lease period, and that we still can't buy it because we still don't have enough money to buy it. And even if we could, now we're not producing the kind of income that we were producing at Heartwood, so we can't even qualify for the mortgage with a couple of people applying. We can't even qualify for the mortgage. Anybody who comes later than me is in really bad shape, and that's you all the time. Come on over here. Come on. Early what? I know. So, so he's been so kind. He said, "Well, Pannavati, me and my wife, we are committed to Heartwood having this problem, having this property." So he said, we were calling to see what we're going to do now, and what we proposed was leasing it for another year, and of course, he doesn't want to lease it; he wants to sell it, but he says, before we start this conversation, what we want you to know is that we are committed to you having this property. I don't know what that means. We're committed to you having this property. And so he was saying that, Mabel Cedar and some were on the line. He was saying that to put us at ease, before we went into our negotiation, because I had 5 different negotiation tactics, you know me. So I had having it reappraised. It's already increased by 400,000 above what we got him down to. So I mean, there's equity in the property owner, so maybe I should buy it and flip it, and then pull out 300,000 and get our 65,000 deposit back, and then we can, I've got all kinds. That's plan 1. Plan 2, I have plan 2, plan 3, plan 4. But he was saying, like, you don't have to just tell me how you think it will work. So I laid out, an idea of how, 2 ideas of how I thought it would work. And he said, "Can you do that in North Carolina?" I said, "I know y'all got some strange rules here. We can easily do it where I came from in DC, but in North Carolina, I mean, you can't even write between a buyer and seller. You can't even write your own contract. You have to have written by an attorney or a broker." So, and I'm like, why? We're grown adults. We're consenting adults. But they said because so many people have been taken advantage of, they felt that they had to protect the people. Yeah, right. So, right. So everybody gets paid, and that's the thing with the law association. Everybody gets paid. So anyway, so what So I went by to take a look at it today, and I was expecting the worst because Pops was crying. You know, I mean, he was literally crying when he saw it. And but I could look at it and see this is cut the grass, trim the bush. You know, this was surface stuff. I wanted to go in and look at what's happening inside the house, and I saw what was happening inside, and I know well, I don't know at this moment what it'll take to for us to be comfortable in our space, but I know it will take something, you know. And the question is whether I want to have to focus on that and how much focus that will take. And then I forgot how many rooms were on each floor and all of that. You know, when I closed the door, I closed the door. So I went upstairs and there was 10. There was the three bedroom suite plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bedrooms and one room that was the Kuan Yin room. So that made 10 on that floor. And then upstairs, and what concerns me is that when we talk, it's only half conversation, not the full conversation. And I had one of those half conversations today, and just looking at the top floor. And she said, so you got so that's 9 full bedrooms plus a 3-bedroom suite with 1 bath. And then the top floor, and I think we have 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 upstairs, and the stub in for 2 bathrooms. Mhm, and the stub in for 2 bathrooms. So, but I know because I was the first one renovating it, right? I know that you can't sleep on that floor because without having, they wanted you to have a lift and fire suppression system. Okay, so my lawyer got the fire suppression thing worked out because on the second level, which was considered the first level of sleeping, there are doors to go out on the roof, and so there was egress. And my lawyer got that part straightened out before we turned the property over. Um, but what I also know is that you could not sleep up there. Those could not be sleeping rooms. They can be rooms used for activity, you know, classrooms or whatever. But you couldn't sleep up there because it's 4 stories. On the 4th story, you have to have certain things. So that was the reason.
Oh, she's giving you the top 2 floors?
They're giving the top 2 floors.
Oh.
So that there's this first floor.
All right.
First sleeping floor, and she said, "Well, you could just use that one for retreats." And like if we have company come over or whatever, they could sleep on that floor. But I no longer want to do a bed and breakfast. She said, "I no longer want to do that. I just want to live in community with people like you all, you know. But I have an affinity for the house, and I wanted to restore it. I still do, and I still am. I just don't want to have make it into a bed and breakfast. I just want community, and so that's what we are considering, and we have to because our lease is up here in 2 months, and our lease is up in December at the other property, and we still have to work out something with the landlord to get, and we have to decide whether we're even interested in doing that. But I do think that I owe you now some, I should have a conversation with you to let you know these things are on our table. I know y'all think money just appears. It doesn't. But Because we no longer own that property. She's offering to give us those floors free so that we, yes. And the person that it belongs to was the one that I originally bought the property from because she was not able to get a loan to renovate it. And she lived in Australia. And so I bought it from her. But now she sold her hotel in Australia and she's moved, her parent, and she's moved to the United States. And she wanted it. And she said, I will do this. But then after we moved out, she said, the house is not the same since you all have lived there. And she said, it just feels completely empty. Even the ghosts have left the house. And, oh yeah, there are a number of ghosts in there. But they have left the house. So she said, we thought they left with you all and came over. But no, I don't think so. They're not there. So anyway, just, yeah.
Most times I moved in somewhere and I made all the accommodations and I made it good. But they were not stable. And the next thing I know, I'm out. So how stable is this arrangement?
So there, well, if we do a housing nonprofit, that gets written up in the, documents that we live there. What you call it? Yeah. But it does mean that she's got to sell the condos. I don't think people have problems selling hardly anything today. And that is, let's say that even if it wasn't, let's say that after 2 years or 3 years that she didn't sell all of them or something happened and we had to make a change. I know we're creatures of habit, but everything is cause and condition, for grown-ups. It's just like candy tree for children, but for grown-ups, it's cause and condition. But let's say she didn't, then what's 7 times 12? 84 times 3.
160 plus it's 240.
That's $250,000 that we have saved in 3 years. I mean, can we raise $250,000? We can save 250, but to have to raise 250, nobody in here is too concerned about how that would get raised but me. So this is I'm just having grown up conversation, right? So for me, that is a consideration, like if, say it was just 3 years, then that allows us to save money instead of spending money to have 2 Dharma talks a week in this property. So it's not an easy, it takes a lot of consideration and it takes a lot of wisdom balancing the pros and the cons. My personal opinion is I'm happy where we are, even though we're just about at capacity now, which means we can't grow. But I'm still happy as we are, even if we don't grow, but we can't accommodate but one more person, then that's where we are. We can decide then what we'll do. If we go ahead and settle on this property, then that means that it maybe 5 years down the road, I won't be here, but maybe then you all will opt for something larger. And that would mostly be within the scope of the monastic community, those who are living their lives in community together, not just coming to the Dharma hall or Dharma talk. So there's a lot going on. But what I want to say to you is that no matter what is going on in your life, we cannot turn from, or we should turn our minds to understanding causality, cause and condition. And nothing happens in isolation. Everything is dependent upon factors, immediate factors, situational factors, and it's dependent upon the particular individuals who are involved in that. So that's how we create everything in our life. So you can look at your life now, because this is what part of this is about, honestly and clearly looking at your life to see what situations are there, what state your life is in, and to understand how it got there. Nothing was by happenstance, and nothing was separate and apart from the individual players in that situation and the situation itself and what they wanted or desired or was willing to do, or all of these things. So everything that comes in our life in this way, it should be understood like that. And when it's understood like that, then one can just go through life, hoping and endeavoring to have the wisdom to know how to handle whatever comes in their life, knowing that all of those conditions arose due to certain causes. You know? So I think it's yes.
Property taxes on that other house, if you have to.
We don't have tax.
You don't have property
We don't
tax.
pay taxes, no. We don't pay taxes. Yeah, I know. Taxes did almost double last year, property taxes. So anyway, I just wanted to share all of that. And it can mean something or it can mean absolutely nothing. And if anybody is fearful, then you need to deal with your own fears and anxieties, because all that's in your mind, because like nothing is happening at the moment. And whatever happens will happen as a result of actions that we take. Yeah. Anybody have any questions? Got to be a short question, because I probably don't know the answer to it yet.
Thank you for attending with all this.
Yeah. And I don't even want to bother with it, but it goes with the territory, So you have to, unless we just pack up and sit in a corner and wait to die, hoping that there's something else because we couldn't cope with what's here, Um, so that's it. So it really is a kind offer. I believe it's a sincere, heartfelt offer. I don't think that there's not, an equal benefit in it for her to fulfill her vision of what she wants to see at the property when you have somebody ready-made for the property. And when I saw them today, they said, we want, doing this work, we know what it took. We know what you had to do, the infrastructure that you had to put into this property to make it, for our dream to come true. And we feel that the property is also belongs to you all. Now, I don't doubt that for a minute. And that's not a pride, and that's not brag. That's just a fact. So to even say that to me, like it's unnecessary. You don't have to even say it, because it's really not about her and the property or about us and the property. We take these things to be ours, but they're not ours. And we don't take any of it with us. But I do want a certain amount of comfort for those who live in residence. I want a certain amount of comfort for those of us who come together and who are mutually supporting our spiritual growth together. So that's what's on our plate right now. It says that when you have negative consequences, it's stressful. And he said when you have positive outcomes, it's also stressful. you know. So, so don't think that we just want pleasure, because pleasure comes with its own consequences too. We thank Maureen and Richard. They did a concert yesterday evening at Hardwood Mandala, and it was just really lovely. I think it might have been maybe 20 people or so, something like that. Maybe a little bit more. 20, 25 people. Yeah. So that was really, really wonderful. And I liked it. You know, I liked being there. I've been a monastic for 20 some years, and that it's a certain kind of life. I like that life too. But what Buddha Master has been sharing with us is like if you got like 0.000000001% are monastics in this life and everybody else is lay people, then you're going to be pretty limited as to how you can interact and have a life with them. So he's encouraged by his own actions, um, an emphasis on lay people. And even as I'm reading some of the text, it lands on you differently than it lands on us monastics, because we gave up all of that. Maybe not gave it up because it was a thou shalt not, but gave it up because the glitter and the glamour of lay life began to fade. Once you start seeing things clearly, grasping and aversion just begins to like pass off your sting. The drama of life starts to go away. I talked to my son, and he's 50 something, and I was asking him how he's doing. He said, "Mom," and he's had like, I don't know, a bunch of girlfriends, and simultaneously, like all over populating DC, got, I don't know, 12 kids and something, and he loves children. He's a great father and all that. You just don't need that many. And you certainly don't need that many women. And so we were like just having this conversation about life. And he said, so I said, "So how's your life now, son?" He said, "Because I don't see them that often. That was a life I had with my children, and now I no longer have that life. I don't consider them mine. I had them. They were children. They grew up. Now they're free beings and they have their own life. So I'm not one of those still trying to control my children's life at all, and they don't control mine at all." And so we have a very wonderful relationship as human beings, And so I said, well, he said, Mom, he said, "I think I'm going to settle down with blah, blah." And I don't want to call the name in case he changes his mind and somebody hear this. "I'm going to settle down with blah, blah." And because she was the most boring, she's was the most boring woman that I had. He said, "I like the nightlife. He's done well with his business and all that." And he said, "But now at 54, whatever age he is, 50 something," he said, "but now what I used to call boring, I call peace." He said, "So I'm looking for peace in my life now, not all that mama drama and all of that." And he said, "And it's the one that hung in for 18 years. He bought her a house, put her through college. She's got a good job career, and he stops by to see her once a week. It's something like that." And he says, "But she's always there. It's just the words that she uses with me. It's not like, well, when you coming back?" And he said, "It's just that, well, this is your home. I'm always here." He says, "And that's what she says when I leave. Knowing that I'm leaving her and I'm going to another home that I have with somebody else." He says, "But that's what she says to me. She says, I'll be here." And he said, Now, I think she's crazy. I'm just gonna tell you, but it's not my relationship, right? That's not. It's the people involved. Remember that. So you just can't judge things good or bad. That works for them. That works for them. And so she said. So he said, I think I've finally decided. He says I've been cutting them back one by one. I got about 3 more. Then I got to sell a couple of properties off. Get them comfortable and settled. And then I'm going home, is what he said. I said, well, you better not let her get to be 54, because I'm going to tell you, when we get 54, if things haven't been going the way we wanted them to go for the last 20 years, we're done about that age. Guys ready to settle down, and we're ready to go. And so that's just the difference in men and women. I said, you better hurry up, son. He said, I will, Mom, thanks. And that's it. But it was still giving him Dharma. I didn't sit down and give him a talk on the Buddha. I didn't sit down, but just in their own life, their own situation. And he, number one, he wasn't asking me for any advice. So I had to be very careful in the advice that I gave, because he didn't ask. You can't answer a question that has not been asked. So we have to learn, Buddha Master said, we have to learn how to answer everyone in our life. And he said, starting with your family. The ones that we like we didn't just cut them off because they don't get it. We're going to go out and save the whole world, but our family, we're just separate. But he said, no, you have to go back to your family. So this year I've been connecting with my children, not to have a mommy-child relationship, but connecting with them as human beings around the issues in their life. I contacted my daughter, and I last time she came to see me, I told her some things that were really on my heart. I didn't want to talk about those things because I hardly see her, once every 3 years or something like that. So I didn't want to talk about certain things. But I said, I need to do this. And I talked to her and I said, you understand, I'm not judging you at all. I'm just telling you what my great wish is for you as my child. And I told her that, and I left it alone. But then she sent me a text last week. She said, Mommy, I think I'm getting married. We're making plans. I told her she just needed to hurry up, that she wanted a ghost at her wedding because I wouldn't be around much longer, And I said it in jest, but also seriously. I said, if you want me to appear in person, then you need to hurry up with it. But she had just told me she'll never marry, and it wasn't because I think a woman needs a husband, but I'd seen her all these years looking for love, but looking for love in not the right places, and I wanted to give her a little bit of advice, but not as a mother, but just from a space of wisdom. And so we have to endeavor, even as we start to find our peace, even as we start to find our happiness, don't get bogged down into a romantic relationship with the Dharma, but we have to learn how to turn this into a useful tool to save living beings. Save them from what? Save them from their own unwholesome actions and states of mind that cause them to suffer. And that means that we have to also then be able to walk it out in front of them. Not just say all the right Buddha words, but we have to be able to live a life in front of them. When they see us coming up against trying circumstances, or even against wonderful things that are happening. Not just jump all in or think it's all for me, or not having pride or arrogance about things, and also not being afraid to have a certain kind of humility and submission in the world. These are the marks of awakened beings. These are the marks. Can we be gentle? Can we be clear? Not being busybodies, not taking over things, not controlling things, but can we just move through the world without leaving so many footprints? Can we be there and yet not be there? You know, um, uh, hmm, doesn't sound glamorous. And if it doesn't feel glamorous, you still have work to do. No, we still have work to do. But when that starts to feel easy for you, when it's easy to overlook a sight, easy to tolerate a fault, not getting too happy about anything, not getting too sad about anything. If one I remember when and I said it before, but the president, Obama, and whoever the president of China was at that time, and he went over there and he greeted him in the traditional Eastern fashion by bowing, and they did a mutual bow. It was all over the news. Obama bowed his head to the president of China. I mean, just no class, and so mm, yeah, that's how they greet each other. But it seemed like only my way the way, or only our culture is the highest and the best. I mean, they're still here. We're 200 years old and falling fast. So we don't know as much as we think we know. And so I don't have any fears and anxieties about the future um, of this world. I know this world will be here, and its inhabitants will be here because Shakyamuni said so. That in 5,000 years it will be the reign of Maitreya. And it'll be a time where there is prosperity and beauty, and but sometimes in order for something to change, some people they gotta die. Some things have to pass off the scene in order for something to come through. And we might be at that place right now where some things have to pass off the scene. We can't say that we want change and we don't want the chaos that comes with change, because change comes with a shaking up, with chaos. So the only way I feel that we will not move in my lifetime towards a better position is if me and people like me who embrace goodness are not good at our job, because bad people are really good at being bad. But how good are we at being good? We're the ones who play hopscotch, who are on both sides of the fence. Sometimes I'm a little bit good, then I'm a little bit bad, bad people, they're just bad. I mean, you know where to find them, you got the address. But for us, I don't know where we are, where we stand. It depends on which way the wind is blowing today, or something I have. So we got to stop being phony and stop being fake. And the Dharma gives us the courage to live this way. The Dharma gives us the courage to be able to have some assurance about what is true in this circumstance, and what is my part in it. And when you have that, there's a kind of confidence. He said, better to walk alone like a tusker in the woods than to live with fools. And so this kind of compassion that we have has to be combined with a certain kind of wisdom that's based on right mindfulness. It's not like just mindfulness as a thing. But what are you mindful of? And a lot of times we're mindful of the situation through the lens through which we see it, but we are not mindful of the fundamental and foundational truths that govern life. And because we don't know those, then the things that we see, or the appearances, we call it a false appearance or faulty appearance, because we can't see clearly what the situation is. And so I read about a person who's running for something, and somebody sent me Juju from our sangha who's moved to wherever she moved to New York, and she sent me something and I read it, and I was really I was I didn't know it, and now she's running for something, and it looks like she might get it here in North Carolina. It is. I know what it is. I'm just trying not to say what it is and who she is, because I don't want to use this platform for a political platform. But I was not informed. Luckily, we have Juju because she informs me about these kinds of things, and I wanted to do something about it. I want to do something about it, but I need to have the wisdom of what's my right role in it. So I'm not going to make phone calls and tell. I'm not going to do a political thing. But I've asked the question, so I know the answer's going to come. I want to be. I want to be. It's areas of commission, things that we do that is not useful or beneficial or helpful. But there are also areas of omission, things that we fail to do that could have allowed a prevailing on the side of good. And these are serious matters. They're heady matters, and we need the wisdom to know how to help advance our society and just our human civilization. We want to be bodhisattvas and dharmapalas and gods and all of that. We got to figure out how to be the best human beings we can be first. Oh, to work a little bit on that and a little bit on the other, and at the same time. Yeah. So I just thank you for giving me the space this morning to share, and asking everybody to be prayerful that we come to the right conclusion, because whatever conclusion we come to, it's a choice, a conscious choice that we're making. And my only objective in all of it is to do that which would allow the going forth of the Dharma as it has been handed down, and providing a place of solace for those who want to invest their life in realizing it. There's nothing that I want out of any of it, and nothing that I want from anyone. So I'd like to read section today, chapter 25. Prajna is unequaled Dharma. Prajna is unequaled Dharma. And the reason I want to read this particular one is because it talks about spiritual capacity. And there's a lot of movement, like now, as it was for me in the 70s when I was and New Age is still going on. This is a new age, so that's not a knock or a negative word. But what I do want to say is that prajna is not the same thing as energy, and a lot of things that we touch today and we're using. You could even say, we'll talk about vibration, but prajna is not vibration either. So I don't want us to get confused, because when we start to experience certain things, we experience them through the lens of our own understanding. So that means we see things from our side, maybe not exactly as things are. And so we coin words and phrases, and then we start to build something around that, and that becomes the truth. And so I want to bring a little bit of clarification, and to remind people that this is still worldly worldly phenomena. It is not. So these things of experiencing, feeling energy and experiencing vibrations and whatever words that we put to the experiences we have, they are not the actual thing, but only the thing as we understand it through the lens of our current, um, uh, through, through the limited perceptions that we have. Because prajna is the highest, the supreme great Dharma, it is unequaled. Even a Dharma that enables you to ascend to the inner court of the Tushita heaven is not equal to and cannot compete with prajna. Thus, ordinary people and practitioners of the two vehicles, that's Theravada and Mahayana, cannot awaken to the marvelous meaning of prajna. Those whose state of realization is commensurate with either of the two vehicles are even more unable to understand and realize its reality. He's talking about us right now, right? At this point, you cannot use your worldly thinking to describe it. All you can do is experience it by yourself, by following the Dharma and cultivating yourself in accord with the Dharma. This clearly points out that the marvelous meaning of prajna is not what ordinary people and practitioners of the vehicles can awaken to. And so if we were to downgrade prajna, we would call it the ultimate what? Wisdom, right, okay. You should first consider whether you are an arhat of the two vehicles. If you are, then immediately fetch something from Jubai Street for me to eat. I'm hungry. Can you produce it for me? You should be able to stretch out your arm from here and fetch that food. That would prove that you are an arhat of the two vehicles because they have that ability. If you lack even this small skill, you cannot say that you have awakened to prajna. I can only say that your awakening to prajna is somewhat shallow. Not that you have no awakening at all. However, I believe that what I am imparting to you will cause you to awaken very quickly. Awakening to prajna is not the same thing as realizing prajna. On the other hand, there is the situation where one realizes prajna right after awakening to it. The spiritual capacity of those people is extraordinary. The reason it is not easy to awaken is that the meaning and the doctrine contained in the Buddhist sutras are just too profound and they are overly elaborate. Additionally, there is a lack of detailed explanation. Secondly, it is very difficult to integrate the expositions of the Dharma given by Dharma masters of the past with worldly truth or express them using worldly language. Sometimes they spoke too long, and they mostly recited from memory texts of books. They confusingly presented the truth, and their hollow sentences muddled your head. They would excerpt some passages from works by Nagarjuna and his disciple Aryadeva about conditioned origination and emptiness being the nature of all things, or from commentaries by the two brothers Asanga and Vasubandhu on emptiness, existence, and conditioned origination. Actually, those passages had nothing to do with the text of the sutras they were expounding. What could the audience possibly understand after such a lengthy speech? Expounding sutras in this way is how the audience was manipulated by those superficial sutra teachers who went about confusing the world. Their words were suitable for people who deeply studied literature and knew literary jargon, but they were baffled as well because the Dharma principles spoken were confusing to begin with. Therefore, we should expound the Dharma as if we are casually chatting, addressing each topic in the order it appears in the sutra and showing the way in a precise and accurate manner. Sometimes it will also be necessary to follow the text to delve into its principles further. By expounding in this way over and over again, you will come to understand the taste of prajna. There's wonderful subtlety involved in which method to apply the acquiring prajna, just as there is in prescribing the proper medicine in response to a disease. The wondrous doctrine of prajna is very profound, and for this reason, the Buddha manifested the Pure Land, which is like an illusory city, and spoke words as a skillful means to take in living beings in the three spheres. What's the three spheres? Those three worlds. When one arrives at the world of ultimate bliss, one must still progress to even higher levels. One must listen to the ultimate truth as imparted by the Buddhas and the prajna being imparted today. For the sake of the accomplishment of living beings, the Buddha manifested an illusory city. The manifestation of that illusory city signifies a skillful means. You are told to go forward and keep going to get to that place. Once you arrive at that place, you will again be guided to reach even higher levels. As the saying goes, the first mountain is the start of your journey, but you still need to climb the cloud-covered peaks. The world of ultimate bliss is not the ultimate destination. Rather, it is an illusory city place. Holy and ordinary people live there together. Holy and ordinary people live there together. Holy and ordinary people live there together. So it's a challenge for those who are in like a monastic community because they're striving to be holy people. And then we have lay people who come to live there, and that's not really their, they might like living in the environment, but really they're looking for maybe say shelter. It's like, so I have no commitment to what you're doing. I'm looking for a place that's comfortable for me to live. Holy and ordinary people, he says, however, must live together. So that means that we have to change the way we think about things, the way we understand things. We think the other people have to change, and maybe they do need to change, but then also we have to change, you see. And so it gets to be not as comfortable when you're actually walking out the Dharma as opposed to when you're talking out the Dharma. For this reason, the Buddha manifested the Pure Land, which is like an illusory city, and spoke words as a skillful means to take in living beings in the three spheres. When one arrives at the world of ultimate bliss, one still must progress to even higher levels. One must listen to the ultimate truth as imparted by the Buddhas for the sake of accomplishment of living beings. Why? For the sake of the accomplishment of living beings. For the sake of the accomplishment of living beings. And so the Buddha manifested an illusory city. The manifestation of that illusory city signifies a skillful means. You're told to go forward and keep going until you get to that place. Once you arrive at that place, you will again be guided to reach even higher levels. And so sometimes if the whole thing was revealed to us, we just wouldn't go. We wouldn't go. So he says, like, you only have to go from here to here. But once we get there, that's the illusory city that has been crafted that gives us not only a resting space, but a recalibration space to see who I am now and how I can go forward now, what heights I can reach now. And so he says, actually, you got to keep going. It's up over there. But having had that resting place, that place where we can examine ourselves. I'm not the person I was when I started this. I'm not the person that I was. I don't think the way I thought then, but yet I'm evaluating myself as if I was that person, And so we have these intermediate states that we get in where we can shake ourselves and remember, or not remember, but realize who we are now compared to who we were then. And this becomes our beginning ground, not that down there. This is now our basement level. And from that we can continue to go. It says, as as the saying goes, the first mountain is the start of your journey, but you still need to climb the cloud-covered peaks. The world of ultimate bliss is not the ultimate destination. However, holy and ordinary people live there together. He says, but when that happens, the ordinary people there will not descend into samsara. They will never again be shackled by cyclic birth and death in samsara. So do you see how important it is for us to take our steps for spiritual maturity? Because it's in this way that we really save living beings. Not the outer things that we do for people. That's not saving people. That came up in our own mind, but it's something more than that. Not the outer things that we do, but in our walking with them in a certain way, even though it may seem troublesome for us, even though it may seem hard or difficult, or when we were at this level seem wrong, when we get here, it becomes the absolutely right thing to do. I feel, I'm hearing feedback, so I'm feeling like I'm talking too loud, but I might start getting loud now. So you might have to turn that down a little bit. Might be the right thing to do. So what was hard for you at one stage, which might be the same thing that's hard for somebody else to do right now, might be easy for you to do at this stage. So whenever you're finding that everything you have to do is easy for you to do, know that you're slacking off, because unless I would always say that if my level of enlightenment was all there was to get, then we're in bad shape. And that's how you should think, that if whatever you've mastered, not to throw shade or take anything away from your mastery, you have mastered that, but that's not all that there is to master. That's just all you could master, coming from where you were, and so always look at it that way. So I'm always looking for a challenge. I might be thrown when something shows up in my life, and I'll go, Pannavati, for Pete's sake, I thought you were better than that, or I thought you were over that, or that shouldn't even bother you, or that should bother you, or or whatever. So I'm always looking for that which challenges where I am at the moment. And so we can have some words and we can have some conversations, and 5 minutes later, you can't find me there, because I'm thinking about what I said, or what I did, constantly looking at it and judging it and looking to see if more prajna, more light is shining on that changes the way I thought about it 5 minutes ago. And if it did, I'm moving to that space. If I see it, I will go there. So if you're looking for me right there, I might be right there if 5 minutes later, or an hour later, or a day later, or a week later, or a month later, I'm still seeing it the same way. After I have shined the light, of contemplative illumination on it. But chances are, hopefully, I won't be in that same space around that view, good or not good. Because we're always endeavoring to not have anything that we cling to. Not anything. But what it does help you do is it helps you to be able to be authentic. It helps you be able to speak the truth, as you understand it. It helps you not to have ulterior motives. It helps you not to be phony or false. It helps you to stay humble, and it helps you to not be so attached to your views, because that attachment is what causes us so so many problems. And so, sometimes people come and they're not ready for this level of Dharma. They wanna do some navel gazing, and then they want to hear a sweet Dharma about compassion and love, you know, or they want to hear something about what can help them be more prosperous or better on their job or how to get their fame. But that's not what this Dharma is. Doesn't mean that those things don't come, but they come according to causes and conditions, right? And so we're just learning how uh, to take responsibility for every moment of our life. Um, and so it says, now that you understand this truth, you should earnestly practice with your thoughts, your speech, and your action being in correspondence to strive to realize in this world the ultimate truth, the truth of prajna. Actually, it's a very simple matter to go to the world of ultimate bliss. There's a great Dharma of jhana based on Vajra power. On the same day one learns that Dharma, the crown of one's head opens and one can ascend to the world of ultimate bliss. Unfortunately, since the karmic conditions have not matured and you have not even heard of that Dharma until this day, however, I believe that one day you will hear about that great Dharma of liberation, whether it is Vajrayana, the path of prajna, or the Dharma method of chanting the name of Amitabha Buddha. You may not slander various types of Dharma. Moreover, in this world of ours, there are other Dharma methods that you can practice and learn. Therefore, no Dharma can be slandered as long as it is a true Dharma of the Tathagata. Those who understand prajna should also practice Pure Land Dharma. After we have understood prajna, we should still practice Pure Land Dharma. The two practices should proceed in parallel, with each shedding light on the other. Why? It is because the meaning and doctrine of prajna are unfathomably profound, and as such, practitioners end up counting the treasures of others. When the bardo state appears before them, they are unable to control their destiny. Now, I'm afraid that you disciples only count the treasures of others, that you have only learned some skills in uttering platitudes. In that case, you'll not be able to liberate yourself. And when the state of bardo appears before you, you will end up going to the netherworld. The same consideration applies to practitioners of yoga, practitioners at even higher levels who practice the holiest Dharma imparted by Buddha. Here, the term practitioner of yogas refers to practitioners who practice esoteric Dharma. Disciples, besides practicing the preliminary practice and the main practice, you should also practice the power Dharma. That's the Dharma of transferring consciousness upward, just in case the bardo state appears before you and you are unable to freely control your own birth and death. So I read in another section about, like everybody doesn't have to practice master power. I said, okay, I'm gonna be one of those. I won't master power. I'll get to where I'm going through some other method, because I had done some of these practices early in my spiritual journey. I mean, one time I happened to go to the hospital because I was doing a particular practice, with the sun, and the phone rang and it broke my concentration, got disturbed, and I got it stuck here, and that was when I had a seizure and I had to go to the hospital, and I'm calling my master from the hospital, and he says, were you doing the Yin Shin practice? I said, yes. And he started laughing. He said, oh, just go ahead and start it over, do it again, and do it to completion, and that'll be gone. And I did, and that was it. And so then I, checked out of the hospital. Some of these practices are very profound. And if you're not doing all that you should do by way of monitoring and guarding your thought, speech, and action, you're going to get yourself into some places that you don't want to be. And it's why I've been hesitant to go into certain practices. I know they got it all over the internet. I know everybody's talking about it from, their own place of understanding. But it's not that these aren't practices that do not have definite and peculiar power. So like we are in America, we just always want to grab something and run off with it. But I have more respect for the practices than that. And when they are entrusted to your care, then you're very circumspect in how you share it and who you share it with. That's the job, because you bear the responsibility of everybody that you share it with. So it's not just a matter of wanting it to get out there, but knowing that it is received in the right way, in a respectful way, with a full understanding and appreciation of its power and its capacity. And so all of these things are included in that. Oh, so I said, so I'm not going to learn power. I got some other ones. I'll just, I did the, so maybe you don't know it, so I can say the name, the shred shabda practice, and that's where you practice going out and coming in your unconscious sleep and top in. I said, that's good. That's a good one. It's comparable to the other one. I'll just stick with that one since I know that one. Yeah. But I slip out into a bardo space all the time, in between space, and I'm just stuck there. You know what I'm saying? I'm there. I can't go forward, and I can't go backwards. Until it leaves. It's a wonderful space, and but it's not the space. It's intermediate. It's a passing from one, from one state to another state. So it's not just to hang out there. To hang out there in the bottom, it means you're just absolutely inept, you know? And so, but so recognizing that and reading this today, I'm like, either I got to work on my Shred Shabda, or I need to learn the, what's the one I was talking about? I need to learn the power, or because I get into bottle and I'm just out there. Like it's a great state to be in, but it's like well, I can't say it's no state. It's like if I'm flying from here to England and I'm on the plane forever. Like I might enjoy, the plane ride. I might enjoy looking at the clouds. It might feel wonderful and peaceful, but the objective was not to just be on the plane going from here to there. It's to go from here to there, And so when I'm reading the Dharma or I'm listening for something I have missed, something that I didn't know, something not that he didn't say it before, but I just didn't hear it, because my mind wasn't in the place that it is in right now. That's how you take advantage of these. And it's not big things, it's not whole passages, it's not whole books, but line upon line, precept by precept, here a little, there a little, until we come up to the fullness of the measure of the stature of the awakened ones. So I think I'd like to read one more page if I can, because there's a place I want to end on. So you have to know that if I'm talking about this, I'm talking about a Dharma that we have access to, a Dharma that I can transmit. This is not one that I cannot transmit. And even if I only have a small realization of it, even if I can only get to the bardo state, I am off the ground. There's 7 different levels I won't talk about that today. But when one receives a transmission, even when they just read something, that's a type of transmission. Even when it's been given to someone and they can pass it down, that's another level of transmission, because it's just going, when I read it, if you read it and don't understand it, but yet you still have received a type of transmission. That means something has been planted, something has been released to you. You might have to unpack it. You maybe don't know what it is now. Maybe it went like this in one ear and out the other. Maybe you didn't even, but it's there. And in its own time, given the right kind of nutriment and tilling of that ground, it will begin to burst forth and awaken in you. Because it is sort of like a vibration that's shattering your illusions and your delusions. Maybe today it doesn't awaken. But if you'd never heard it, or if you'd never read it, there would be nothing to point you to that intrinsic part of your nature. That intrinsic part of nature that is the you, as opposed to this illusory view of self that we hold. So don't take any Dharma talk as like, well, I didn't get nothing out of that. I didn't understand that. You heard it. And that's what you can hold fast to. That Zazie has at her temple, enclosed in a big crystal pyramid. She has a Bodhi seed, a Vajra seed, not a Bodhi seed. She has a Vajra seed, and it just dances all over, but it's encased in hell inside the crystal. And it's the one that was given to her when Buddha Master was giving her a particular empowerment. And he said, if you have awakened to this empowerment, then make this seed move. And so she began to do her the practice, and it started moving, and then it flew away. And she was overseas at that time, and it landed on the altar in Fresno, and at the Wasan nuns temple, which is her temple now. They gave her that temple when her Bodhi seed flew there. They said, this place is now for you. And they gave it that. So we don't know. We only have our own proved weapons. We only have the things that we know has worked for us because they worked in the past. That's our experience. That's our knowing, But there are many things that are working in our behalf and towards our favor if we only understood how the world really works. Because we don't inherit the promise. We don't get the prize because we're stuck in our self-centered and our history-centered views of the make-believe self. So I'm encouraging you to start to have more confidence in the Dharma and its ability to bring forth in our lives what is possible. The only reason why they call things miracles is because they can't figure out by what means it happened. That's why they're called miracles. But once you figure out by what means it happens, it's no miracles. Okay. So this was not my Dharma talk for today. I was just going to make a little comment at the beginning, and but this is where it took us. He says, I have 5 minutes. And then y'all know I've cut it down by half an hour. Thank you very much. Because we used to end at 2, but I've cut it. Well, those who understand prajna should also still practice Pure Land Dharma. The two practices should proceed in parallel, each shedding light on each other. Why? It is because the meaning and doctrine of prajna are unfathomably profound. When the Bardo state appears before them, they are unable to control their destiny. I'm afraid that you disciples only count the treasures of others. You have only learned some skills in uttering the platitudes. In that case, you will not be able to liberate yourself when the state of Bardo appears before you, and you will end up going to the netherworld. The same consideration applies to practitioners of yoga. Disciples, besides practicing the preliminary practice and the main practice, you should also practice the power Dharma, the Dharma of transferring consciousness upward, just in case the Bardo state appears before you and you are unable to freely control your own birth and death. And so this is letting me know something. If you want to know where you are, don't ask other people. But this lets me know something. This, and this might land on you entirely different than how it lands on me. It doesn't mean your view of it is wrong, or that mine is right, or that it doesn't mean that. I mean, but each person draws for himself the meaning of that, as and the place it holds in its life. So that means that I don't yet I'm not able to freely control my own living and dying. That's what that means. Because I can get to the bottom, but I can't go forward. And when I'm in it, I can't come out of it at will. But the fact that I can get in it says something. Don't have to say anything to you at all, but it says something to me. This is my journey. Okay, you got yours. You got to figure out what's going on with you. But it says something to me. Because I'm having these experiences. And so it has already given me some direction. And the direction it's given me is I need to continue to work with my Supreme and Unsurpassable Mahamudra of Liberation practice. You can apply the power Dharma to transfer your consciousness so that you will ascend to the Pure Land. What type of Dharma is power Dharma? It's the Pure Land Dharma within esoteric Dharma. With power, there is no need to chant the name of Amitabha Buddha. The commonly known power is the Kuan Yin power. There's also a type of power called bright power. And the one I had was called celestial sound power. That's what the charade shop is. Commonly known, I've used both to transfer the consciousness of deceased people. However, within Buddha Dharma, bright power is also called Guanyin power, or the king of powers. However, the effect is not much different. All of them can cause the spirit of a deceased person to go to the Buddha land of the world of ultimate bliss or heaven. However, if one's knowledge and views are incorrect, one will still go to one of the lower three states. Disciples, you now know that power Dharma is great. However, it is far inferior to the holiest Dharma, the Vajrayana. It is at least 1,000 times inferior to the Vajrayana Dharma. I will not tell you about that Dharma in detail right now. It is a Dharma in the Samul, the Supreme and Unsurpassable Mahamudra of Liberation. Precisely because it is a great Dharma of Buddhas, I, a humble practitioner, unable to clearly imparted to you before the identity of a Buddha is revealed to the world. So this was before there was that whole thing, and 60 different Dharma kings and so forth came and proclaimed that who his identity in the world. So he couldn't reveal certain things before that had occurred. So he wrote this in 1997. So can you see this is a wonderful year? Because this year we're promised that we'll have the official translation. As you said, it's very difficult to translate something like this because you got to have the realization to translate it, And so the bottom line, he said, is true Buddhists will not swindle anyone out of anything. A true Buddhist will not use other people for their own purposes. A true Buddhist. What we do is diligently and tirelessly strive, rather, to correct our conduct. That is what a true Buddhist does. And so he gives us something very simple to think about day and night, is how true are we, in a very simple check-in. Our thoughts, examining our speech, examining our motivations. I say actions, but I'll say our motivation, the reason why we're doing something. What is it that we're really hoping to get out of it? What is it that we really want? Although it might look good and beautiful out here, the offering, is it really? It's based on motivation. And although we can lie to others, and we can lie to each other, this calls for us to have a kind of deep truthfulness in ourselves, within ourselves. And when we want that more than we want to be seen, when we want that more than we want to be known, when we want that more than even if it causes us to suffer to do the right thing, we'll just stop examining things from an outside perspective or from a self-preservation perspective. And when we think about something, we'll wonder, how does it affect others before we think about how it will affect us? Then we'll stop even thinking about how it will affect us, or like me personally. How will it affect others? That's my only question in every situation. How will this affect others? Not how will it affect me, but how will it affect others? And when we start letting that be our guiding light, then we know we're at least at the stage that we can consider ourselves Buddhists. Somebody close for me?
May we remember the state of impermanence of which we're all in. Somewhere someone is taking their first breath. Somewhere someone's taking their last. May we live each moment remembering the preciousness of our lives is simply the space in between. May our thoughts, our speech, and every action be guided by the purity of our internal light and the purest of intentions. So that way we all use this one precious vessel to cross the shore, not as one, but together. May we freely give all of our merit or benefit from our practice to all living beings, keeping none for ourselves.